Welcome back to our session with Nico. We're here to talk about jewelry heists, art heists, the astrology of these, and some traditional principles for interpreting the event charts for when these heists took place. And this is my book. This is the book that I've got of major mundane configurations from now through 2028. And I've also padded it with some additional information and charts related to our subject today. And because you are my guest, Nico, I've made a book for you too, which features, if you can just show the audience, please, The Great Muppet Caper, 1981 film where the Muppets, as journalists, relocate to London to investigate a heist. And you can see Miss Piggy here behind bars. So
It's very topical.
I think it's, yeah, extremely topical, very exciting. So you came to me saying, "Hey, I want to talk about this art heist that took place in Italy." And I think that's a really great story. We're going to get there. But first, why don't we talk about the Louvre heist that
Yes,
opened up?
absolutely.
The heist that took place in the Louvre that took place in October of 2025. So I remember where I was when it happened. I was at the gym. Actually, I wasn't. It happened early in the morning, but I remember where I was when I learned about it. I was at the gym. I was listening to the news. I had my headphones in. And I just froze completely in place
Yeah.
because what do you mean? Ocean's 11 is happening right here, right now?
Wild.
Yeah, it is. And it was the Louvre of all places. And the Louvre's had some interesting history. I mean, I think it was 2014, it was found that the password on their security camera system was Louvre.
Tight security.
Tight security, very. And, as a result of what happened here, we learned that I think under 40% of the floor of the Louvre was actually being actively monitored and captured by camera, which is kind of wild, and major issues in the security infrastructure with the Louvre, which has since resulted in some resignations and some changes and some investment in security at the Louvre. So it's a very interesting story at the very least. But I wonder, before we even get into the astrology of it, like, I think it's fascinating to think about the way that heists kind of grab us. So, I mean, do you feel that emotional pull when you learn about it? It's exciting.
It is exciting.
I feel like,
It's like
yeah,
a movie.
it does feel like a movie. It feels like I don't know that this is right, but sometimes it's like, well, who's the victim here? I don't exactly always know.
It's a bit of a gray area.
It is a gray area, especially when the theft is from a museum that's not really known for, I think museums have come under fire over the last
Mhm.
couple of years for holding on to heritage pieces from other nations and other lands. And so, there's some questions about the provenance of some of the pieces that were stolen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite heist films?
Um, well, I mean, I do like the Ocean's films.
The Ocean series are really good.
Um,
Yeah.
who can forget National Treasure?
National Treasure.
It's a
Oh my
heist.
goodness. Yeah, I grew up on National Treasure, my family very much enjoyed the Nick Cage kind of, because
Of
was
course.
it a trilogy?
I, th- I think it's a trilogy.
It was certainly set up to be multiple, but I
It's at
think
least two.
it's at least two.
Mm.
Let's talk about the Louvre heist, and this is a pretty incredible story. So there were 8 pieces of 19th century and Napoleonic jewelry that were taken from the Louvre by a team of, I think, about 4 or 5 people is what's been determined at this stage were involved. 2 of them were involved in the active collection of these items, and 2 were on the street with motorbikes ready to hightail it out of there. And then there might have been a suspect, or maybe even somebody directing this from afar. There's still a lot of questions that are out there. 8 pieces, from what I understand, were taken, and only one of them were recovered.
Hmm.
And it was recovered because it fell. It
Yeah, they
was
flubbed.
yeah, it decided not to join the rest of these pieces. So I have a list here of the pieces that were taken. So why don't I just go ahead and
Oh,
read
yeah.
through these? So we have the tiara, necklace, and 1 earring from the sapphire set of Queen Marie Amélie and Queen Hortense. There was an emerald necklace and emerald earrings from Empress Marie Louise's set. And then we have a number of pieces related to Empress Eugenie, who
Mm.
was the empress married to Napoleon III, who in the 1850s set up the Second French Empire. So from her collection, we have the tiara that went missing, a large bodice bow, and then there was also a crown that had over 1,000 diamonds, and that's the one that fell, and so has been recovered and is currently been
Arguably
sent
the
for
biggest piece.
arguably the biggest piece, possibly the most important piece.
Yeah.
I want to show you the astrology. So we have really clear timestamps as to when this happened, thankfully, which allows us to kind of trace some of the steps of the folks who were involved. I'm really amazed by the Mercury-Mars conjunction in the ascendant. What do you think about that?
I think if ever there was a time to rob something,
That's
that
exactly
would be it.
yeah. Mercury and Mars, they are the traditional planets associated with theft. So they have different techniques that are involved. Mercury is the pickpocket, or the one that uses sleight of hand and misdirection. Mars is the one that breaks seals, breaks glass, forced entry, uses perhaps some mode of violence. And of course, they're both in Scorpio. So part of the symbolism there too is about, criminal underbelly. How is this organized? Who is this meant to serve? There were a number of concerns here that that maybe this jewelry has been broken down because it is jewelry. So you can take the stones out, you can melt the metal down, you can recut the stones so they're not as easily recognized as possibly part of the
Right.
theft that's involved. It's not like, I don't know, boosting something from a retailer around here and then just reselling as is. You kind of
It would give it away if you sold it as is.
Could you imagine just going to eBay and you've got the actual tiara just sitting there? What's amazing to me is the way that this astrology suggests how successful they would be, at least in the initial movement here.
hmm
Both Mercury and Jupiter are making an application towards Jupiter in the ninth house. So when you have the significators of thieves making an application by any fortunate aspect to a good or helpful planet in a cadent house, so that's going to be the third house, the ninth house, the sixth, or the 12th, that's associated with being able to make successful escape, and being able to get away and get out. Now, what we know is that there have been a number of individuals who have been, I think there was over a dozen people were brought in on suspicion, were questioned, were talked to.
Right.
But the number has dwindled down now to about 5 that are being suspected and held. And there's no trial that's set yet, but
Mm.
what they took has not been recovered. So we can, I think at the very least, suggest that they might have
They were
been a little more,
successful.
they were pretty successful in what they were attempting to do,
Even if
especially.
they get caught.
Yeah. I mean, and they personally might have been caught. I mean, this is the other issue with being in the ascendant. The angles themselves,
hmm
being positioned in the angles like this, it indicates that they're not able to get far enough away from the scene of the crime.
That's
Angles,
interesting.
yeah, angles are points of activity. Frequently, the angles are very useful for showing somebody's got um, power and direction and the ability to command things to their own liking and to their own satisfaction. In a situation where you're trying to run away or escape, the ascendant becomes less helpful to you because what we want is for the pulse on your location to get weaker and weaker.
That makes sense.
You want to get away, you want to get far. We want 12th house energy, we want ninth house energy, we want third house energy. The ascendant, the midheaven, this indicates that you can't really get far enough from the scene of the crime. As a result, you're likely to be found, you're just too close, too much attention on.
Yeah. Spotlight's still on you.
You're exactly right. And it's also an indication, if we pay attention to the sun and the moon. So in fugitive charts where people are running away, where there's been a theft, the sun and the moon play a really important role. They're luminaries. Their job is to illuminate, to shed light on things, to bring attention, to make sure that we can find what we're looking for. And these two operate as a pair. The sun, because it is stable in its movement, it moves about a degree a day, doesn't really get a lot faster, doesn't get a lot slower. The sun is going to be and it's the one that, never really changes its light. It's always visible. That planet is associated with seekers or the authorities or those who are hounding after, trying to find out the truth of what happened. The moon, because it is faster moving, it's constantly changing shape. It is sometimes north of the ecliptic, sometimes south of the ecliptic. This is the whole mess with the nodes of going up and down
yeah.
visibly, right? And because it is a wandering planet and associated with movement, the moon gets associated with fugitives and thieves and runaways and those who try to make their escape. So when the sun is not well placed and the moon is well placed, it's usually a very good indication that the fugitive's going to have the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see, for instance, the moon applying to a benefic planet, a helpful planet, in a good house, it usually indicates that the thieves' objectives are carried out. And in this case, we can see the moon making an application by conjunction to Venus in the 11th house, which is quite amazing because this is all jewelry worn by women as well,
Mm-hmm.
regal women. This is Venus in Libra.
And it's also Libra too.
It's Libra, you know, and
A little on the nose.
we've got the moon and Venus both conjoined each other. So this is a great image of empresses and queens and all of the names that we've just mentioned. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really quite something. And the sun, by contrast, is in its sign of fall in the 12th house. This is not a sun that's going to be, and it's separating from Jupiter as well.
Okay.
So it's not in positive forming aspects with benefics like the moon is. So this is a good indication of the authorities struggling to get the full truth and full account of what happened. Now, we have been told that some of the people who have been detained are willing to give information as to what happened to the jewels if they can negotiate an agreement for what happens with them. But we'll see if the truth really does come out, if we're ever able to actually recover these items. Looking at the astrology of this, I think the crown might be the bulk of it. When you think about crowns, you know, the image of regality, of power, and supremacy, I think about the sun. I could also think about Jupiter in some context, but if I had to pick a planet for a crown,
Yeah.
do you think?
Like a gilded leader.
Yes.
It would be the sun, of course.
Yes, and it's got, you know, tons, 1,000 diamonds or something like
Mhm.
this in it, so it's going to be very bright, very reflective. Um,
1,000 diamonds. That's crazy.
right, I know it's quite something. And so having the sun in its sign of fall in a cadent house, and I just want to teach you what my mentor Deborah Holding has taught me, and we teach everybody at the STA. Cadent comes from the same root where we get the word cadaver in English.
Oh,
And it
interesting.
means something to have fallen, to have died, to have moved away. So that word cadent means falling. So the sun is in its sign of fall and it's cadent.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two very good indications of something having fallen. And it was the case, actually, that the crown fell,
Right, the headpiece.
the headpiece fell. And that is the only piece that they that has been recaptured by the authorities, and everything else has kind of made its way in different directions.
But it wasn't fully intact, right?
No, it was not. I think it was damaged in some way, which would
It was
make a
missing
lot
a
of
piece
sense
or
of the
two.
astrology, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the moon separating from an opposition with Saturn. The moon is also going to be showing things that are stolen or that are lifted, things that we're looking for. So the symbolism here is quite striking for this. But now that we've had a little bit of time to talk about the Louvre, why don't we shift gears and move to what happened at Magnani Rocca Foundation, where we had the
yes.
three pieces. There was the Cézanne, three pieces of art.
Right.
There was the Cézanne. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That was worth 6 million euro. And then there was the Renoir, which was 3 million. And then there was an engraving by Matisse, which is valued very differently, only 20,000 euro compared to the others, which has led some of the investigators to wonder, you know, did they know what they were taking? Because
Of all the things.
yeah, the prices, they either knew exactly what they were after or they had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
I've actually got video of this particular
Oh, I haven't seen
theft.
it yet.
You haven't seen it yet? Should we take a look? This was released by Arma, or La Arma, which is one of the security forces, the Italian national security forces. So
Okay.
let's gear this up and take a look at this video. Okay, so this is the footage, as I said, this is the footage that was released from La Arma, and you can see just here breaking in to the foundation. We got two men here, and they're entering into this side room. You can see he takes the art from the main wall, and then these two pieces here on the left.
Are they taking it out of the frame?
You know what? No, I think that they're more concerned with the way that the frame was attached to the wall.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I'm obviously not quite sure. We don't know exactly when this happened. We were told that it obviously happened in the middle of the night. There's a report that suggests it happened around 2 a.m. This was in Italian reporting, so I've hopefully translated it correctly, but it said around 2 a.m. So the question is, whether or not we'd actually be able to get an accurate timestamp, and you can see there they are getting away.
I wonder what other pieces that they have at that museum.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because
I'm not sure.
this video doesn't seem like they might have known what they grabbed.
Right, that there might have been.
First paintings they saw, they took them.
Yeah, there might have been other options, but in the end, they kind of just went with what they could see in front of them.
Right.
So I've got the astrology here of this particular heist. And again, this is shown at 2 a.m. We don't know that it was 2. It could have been a little bit earlier than that. I have a theory, and I'll try to, without losing anybody, walk through the theory that I think about
Okay.
about its discovery. But just to give folks a little bit of an update, it was only a few days ago, as of today, when we're
Yes.
recording, only a few days ago, that these paintings were recovered. They were found, all 3 of them, and the engraving. And so now this has a very different ending than what looks like is transpiring with the Louvre heist, because this particular art heist, we have recovery. So I'm going to show you, taking a look at this astrology, how this is not quite as helpful for the people who were initiating the robbery. So this happened very close to the Aries ingress. It happened on the early hours of the 23rd of March,
Mm-hmm.
2026. I'm not clear if there's Capricorn rising or if there's Sagittarius rising.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to tell you, either way, neither way is going to be really fortunate for these folks, and I'm going to walk you through why. Both of
Okay.
the, whether it's Sagittarius rising or Capricorn rising, both would indicate that they were likely to be caught. The most important thing to pick up, remember, we're talking about the sun and the moon,
Mm-hmm.
the moon representing fugitives, people who are running away
Mm-hmm.
under escape. What do you see?
Oh, I'm looking at that Moon-Uranus conjunction.
The moon-Uranus conjunction, what does that say to you?
Something unexpected.
Something unexpected. I think this gives a little bit more credence, perhaps, to coming in using force. We saw the breaking of glass, obviously, but
Right.
then the moon-Uranus conjunction also suggests to me that maybe they didn't know what they were grabbing. They were just they were told to go into maybe a room, or they found a room that felt
Right.
like it had, because when they first came into the main entry room, there wasn't a lot there that they could have taken.
No.
And this was very quick. I mean, this whole thing from start to finish took 3 minutes. I mean, they were in and out.
They knew how much time they had.
They
and
knew
that
how
was
much
it.
time they had. They had an alarm that they were going to trip. They needed to move very quickly. Yeah, absolutely.
That sun isn't looking so good either.
Well, so this is what I was going to tell you. So if we take a look at the sun and the moon, do you see how they're in aspect with each other?
Mhm.
You might be fooled into thinking that there's no aspect between the sun and the moon because one is in Aries and one is in Taurus. But the fact is that the moon is already with an orb of making an application to the sun.
Mm.
It is about 6 degrees away, maybe close to 7 it's a little bit under 7. So about 6 degrees away, the moon will change signs and form a sextile with the sun.
Right.
The issue with that is an indication of identifying the thieves, identifying who they are, where it is,
Ooh.
where the missing things have been stashed, and it's an indication of recovery. So the sun and moon making a good aspect, that's not the time you want to
Right.
pull a heist. And you mentioned the sun's not looking too good. So if we were to play a game and just assume that the theft happened at 2
Mhm.
a.m. or after, when Saturn would be ruling the ascendant and then maybe be a prime significator for the thieves. Saturn's in its sign of fall, not terribly
Mhm.
well placed. And the sun, of course, is a significator of those who are searching. So the Sun-Saturn conjunction would be another indication that these thieves would be caught.
And The sun is exalted.
The sun is exalted in its sign of Aries.
Mhm.
So when you've got the thieves very poorly placed and the authorities and the people who are in state of search very well placed, the balance of power isn't quite working out in your favor,
Right.
I would think. They ended up, I think it was something like so this was in March, and so March, April, May. We're looking at about 5, 6 months. So March, April, May, June, July, August,
Mhm.
5 months. So roughly symbolically around the time the moon is about 5 degrees from changing signs, you can see. Um,
Uh,
there's about 5 months before the identity was determined of these particular individuals. I want to show you, if you look, go ahead and turn your page there. We're
okay.
going to look at what's called a bi-wheel. So if you are watching and are not familiar with this, what happens is we keep the main chart we're evaluating at the center, and then we look in the future how transits of the planets in future months move around
Mhm.
and kind of form relationships, aspects to the original placements of these planets. So in the center of this chart, we'll still be looking at the exact same configurations. We've got the Sun Saturn conjunction. We have Mercury in Pisces. At the time that these individuals were um, found and the pieces were recovered, just take a look at the astrology. Mars has now, which is a very meddlesome and troublesome planet, has come to the seventh house cusp
Mhm.
at 2 degrees of Cancer. So, again, that's going to assume that the report of about 2 a.m. is reliable,
Right.
right? I mean, if the ascendant is way off of that, then that Mars placement isn't going to be so powerful. But I suspect Mars is part of the story because do you see how the moon was in Virgo,
Yes.
forming it in exact opposition to the Mars on the day of the theft,
Right.
right? And that's happening across Virgo and Pisces.
Mhm.
Very powerful to show this is a period of containment, of capture, of being found. Um, Mars rules the fourth house, so we use that to indicate the shelter of the thieves. Is how Dorotheus called the fourth. Is the Cardine under the earth, where the
Mm.
thieves hide, where they stash everything. Having the moon and Mars in opposition with each other, that's going to be a sharp point of contrast. I'm really fascinated, though. I told you if Sagittarius had been rising, it hardly would have been better.
Right.
And the reason is because if Sagittarius was rising, that would mean Jupiter rules the ascendant and Jupiter's in the seventh house. That's a very classic indication of being captured by one's own enemies. Right? And of course, all of this was recovered. These paintings were recovered, and the identities of the people involved were they were recovered on the 14th of August. And on that date, there's a Mercury-Jupiter conjunction.
Yes.
So if Jupiter represents the ascendant and the thieves, the opposing house would then represent the people who are hunting after them and trying to find them, their declared enemies. Having them in conjunction, that's a real classic indicator of the person doing the searching and the fugitive they're looking for coming into final contact. But I'm really taken by Venus plugging into this as well. You'll notice
Mhm.
Venus is in sextile to Mercury and sextile to Jupiter and forming an opposition with Saturn in real time.
Yeah, this is not good for them.
No, this would not be, yeah, this is not a good transit for for the folks who were involved in this particular heist. So, I mean, this is just, these stories like these are really amazing to me. I mean, they bring out so much in my imagination, about
100%.
crime, about I don't know, there's something about heist that is just there's something special.
Definitely. And I think we can take away that if you're going to do it,
Yeah.
go for the jewels.
You got to go for the jewels. You got art's a little bit harder.
Art is hard.
Art has to stay as it is. Jewelry, yeah, we're not condoning
We
that.
definitely do not condone
But we're
that.
just saying, like, use your brain a little, turn it on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're gonna do with a Matisse. Like, what are you gonna do with
Highly
it?
recognizable.
Highly recognizable. It's inevitable that that's going to resurface. Might be 100 years, might be 200, but it's might be well past the time you've got to come to account for
It's
it. But
true.
that's always a possibility. At the very least, maybe it would make a little sense to make sure that you don't have a good, really clear sun moon contact
That's
at the
right.
start of your own Heist.
And this is why everyone should have an astrologer.
All right. With that, I'm going to say thank you so much, Nico, for joining
Thank you for having me.
today's session. It was really great to be able to talk with you. And I don't know, you tell us in the comments. I think Nico did a great job bursting out of his shell. We're post the eclipse now.
We are.
New life. Maybe you're about to round the corner and become an astrologer yourself.
The beginning.
Just the beginning.
Can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you.